Session to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we acknowledge you as the creator of the universe and the author of truth. And Father, we thank you for the many blessings that you shower upon us each and every day. And we particularly are thankful for the moisture that you brought to your dry earth. And Father, we ask that you continue to be with us and bless this time that we have together working with the county's business. And Father, we ask that you be with each family representative, that you might continue to bless them. And as we make our decisions, may we be guided by your will and your truth. Father, we bring all of our prayers to you in your Son's name.
Thank you.
Nice to see such a large crowd here for the second day of outside agency budget hearings. Today we start with the Finney County Historical Museum and Steve Quakenbush and a gathering of other dignitaries from our community. Good morning, Steve. Please announce yourself for the public.
Do that, and let me start. I am Steve Quakenbush with the Finney County Historical Society, Finney County Historical Museum, and I have some board members here, and I think everybody knows everybody, but if you would just mention your names anyway for the record.
Dennis Kleishuber, Ray Heineman, Bob Jones, Joe Burnside.
And we have about 19 board members, and I don't think we've all been in the same room for a few months, but it sort of works that way. We are here on behalf of the Finney County Museum. Our parent organization is the Finney County Historical Society. We've had a busy year, and we're having another one right now. Our purpose, and I think a lot of you are aware of this, but our purpose is preservation of the past to enlighten the future, and we work at that through 4 key areas, and we've done a lot in each of those over the past year, and that's exhibits, education, historical research services, and preservation of artifacts and photographs and records. We do a lot of events and activities too, and I think you've been to some of those. We had about 21 history-related events over the past year. We also completed 20 to 25 major achievements during 2022. I'm not going to read them all. But we also are presently celebrating our 75th anniversary. And I do want to hit on 2 or 3 key achievements in each of those areas, but I wanted to share a little perspective this morning, and I promise not to take our full 30 minutes. But just for a little perspective, we were founded in 1948, and that's why we're celebrating as an organization our 75th anniversary. Harry Truman was elected president at that time. You remember the famous picture of him holding up the newspaper that said Al Dewey had won. We were opening the Finney County Museum in 1964. Lyndon Johnson was signing the Civil Rights Act. The Beatles were singing "I Want to Hold Your Hand" at that time. A year later, we were shoveling mud out of the new museum. That was after the flood of 1965. Julie Andrews was starring in The Sound of Music. Ben, Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe were earning top ratings on television at that time. We completed our first expansion in the early 1970s, about the time Secretariat was winning the Triple Crown. We introduced the now long-standing Finney County Pioneer Award in 1974. Richard Nixon was signing his resignation. Gene Wilder was starring with Cleavon Little in Blazing Saddles. We opened our research library in 1983. Sally Ride was blasting off on the space shuttle. The Berlin Wall was coming down in 1989. The Ben Grimsley arches were going up and being reconstructed just outside the museum at that time. And as we took on our present configuration through a second expansion in 1994, O.J. Simpson was taking that infamous ride in the white Bronco. As we were opening the William and Letty Fulton House, which we open each summer now, that was in 2005, Hurricane Katrina was surging toward New Orleans. George W. Bush had just been inaugurated for his second term. So, we believe the 75-year history of our organization is linked and intertwined with a lot of other history around us. But just because it was our anniversary, we wanted to share those few highlights. We have worked over the past year with 6 regular staff members, some full-time, some part-time, 69 regular, frequent, and occasional volunteers, and a few part-timers here and there, especially in the summer. 26 businesses, individuals, and couples and organizations that sponsored our events for the community, and more than 200 donors and benefactors and contributors who I think believe in our work because they're willing to support what we do. Those few achievements that I will mention in education, our programs at the museum served over 5,000 children and adults in 2022. In addition, we had hundreds of people attending our 14 free noon and evening history programs. In our research library, we made lots of progress on an extensive consolidation and reorganization of our early day Finney County records. In artifact preservation, we topped a count of 23,000 objects and photographs and records. Don't ask me where we're putting them, but that was part of the reason for the reorganization. One of the other highlights, and we'll celebrate this later in the year, we completed the restoration of the historic Mitchell Runnels Engine gravesite out at Valley View Cemetery. And of course, in exhibits, we completely renovated the My Place in Time gallery in our main exhibit hall. We had 4 short-term temporary exhibits in the front door gallery. We made major improvements to the Pleasant Valley one-room schoolhouse. And even more prominently, and if you've been behind the museum and the zoo, you'll notice this, we had some major exterior repairs completed and new paint on the William and Letty Fulton House. And it's been painted white since it was renovated and reopened back in '05. They weren't painting houses white in 1884. It's now in a 3-color scheme that's appropriate for that period of time. During all of this, our exhibit and event and program traffic grew quite a bit. We, the year prior, in 2021, had just shy of 18,000 guests in the museum. Last year, 21,666. That's an increase of 21%. So we're serving a lot of people. For the year ahead and the year underway, we are doing several things. We are doing everything we can right now to raise some additional funds, probably through grants, to do some major roof repair on the 1-story 1994 part of our building. We're focusing on several historical events, including one pertaining to the Civil War, Saturday evening on the museum's patio. We will be doing a dedication for the Mitchell Runnels gravesite. We're enhancing the walking tours at Valley View Cemetery. If you've been out and you've met some folks from the past, sometimes it's hard to hear, especially if it's windy and cool. Those folks will now have somewhat concealed, but individual amplification systems. We will be staging a temporary exhibit later in the summer in honor of local World War II Army veteran Gregory Knoll, whose remains from combat in 1944 have been identified, and he's being reinterred in Valley View Cemetery in July. We're preparing 5 short-term exhibits in the front door gallery. It's a slow process, but we're making a lot of progress on digitizing our Finney County veteran database. We're continuing to consolidate historical archives in our research library. And I should point out, we're the sole repository for early day Finney County records, as tax, census, school, court, and other records. And we are working with the Finney County Public Library, and I see Pam's here, on a multi-year oral history project. And we will be, later this year, protecting a lot of our framed documents, paintings, and signage that go back to even as far back as the 1880s, with the construction of some additional shelving in our storage areas. And we'll have those 20 or 21 events. Most of those celebrate history for the community and give people experiences in history. At the same time, they raise funds. I really want to conclude by encouraging you to review the additional achievements that are in the handout, and I won't go through those. I'll leave those with you. And I would ask that you peruse the photographs that follow the information here. We've just included several pages illustrating events and activities over the past year. And I don't know if every one of those pictures is worth 1,000 words, but I'm not going to stand here and speak all of those. I just hope you could take the time to do that. And that's all we really had to share with you today. But of course, if you have questions, we're glad to tackle those.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. We'll go from left to right. Commissioner Jones.
You had another board member come in, Steve, that you may want to introduce way back there.
John Wheeler back there as well. So,
John, thanks, John.
is there an award for largest board representation?
I don't have questions for you. I admire your operation and your enthusiasm, so it's good to see you.
Well, thank you. We pedaled the bicycle pretty hard, and I hope it pays off. So,
For the public's information on your roof, who owns the actual building? Does the historical society?
we own the building. When the building was created, when the building was built in 1994, it was paid for 50% by Finney County through the commission and 50% by the Finney Foundation. But the building actually belongs to us.
Any other questions? Commissioner Fishner?
Question before Gabby gets after me. A question and clarification, but the question is, you mentioned additional shelving and so forth. It seems like in previous presentations, you were running out of space for shelving, but you found some space to put additional shelves in?
In a word, yes, Lon. We've gotten better and better at repurposing spaces to take care of things. We have an area right now where a lot of things are stacked and sitting on the floor. Most of that material will go into shelves that will sit in that same location. These are going to be wooden shelves. I want to say 8, 9 feet high. They're in our large artifact storage area. Can't tell you the width right now, but we've got about 150 paintings, photographs, all framed. Several windows with signage on them and signs. And they'll basically get out of the way while the shelves are built and then mostly go right back into that same location, but it'll get them off the floor.
Okay. And then lastly, the request that you have for us this year is $225,000, which is the same as the request last year, if I'm not mistaken, or?
Actually, if it's within your means, we're asking for an additional $5,000. We've been at 220 for 2 years.
Yeah, sorry. So, and I know we have a lot of narrative with regard to what you do and so forth. It was in our packet, and but for the public, for those in the audience, the $225,000 that we from the county are providing to the Historical Society, that's for a multitude of things, operationally and so forth, not one specific or two specific things.
It's general operation, but roughly it covers our personnel costs and sometimes a little more depending on the year. And in addition to that, to fund the budget, we raise the rest, which is roughly $145,000. And that's through events, activities, memorials, contributions, grants, gift shop sales, any number of things. When we mentioned we were pedaling the bicycle, we're pedaling the fundraising bicycle a lot as well.
I just thought it was important to verbalize, where the money was being used. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Steve, I have several questions with regard to financials. That seems to be my area, I guess, a little bit more. Because I'm a rookie, these guys have done this for 16, 20, 8, 12, whatever. This is my first cycle, so bear with me with
Sure.
questions. But last year, in 2021, you had $42,000 in grants, and last year down to 32. What is the difference in the grant cycle, or can you explain that to me?
A lot of the grant funding we apply for and receive comes through the Western Kansas Community Foundation and the Finney Foundation. We've been looking at other areas. Right now, we have a federal grant application in with some leftover COVID funding. I guess, Jerry, in one respect, it's a matter of what's available, and that can vary from year to year. It's also a matter of what projects are we trying to do, and some years we're seeking more grant funding because we have a specific project to fund. Other years, we may not be working on that at that particular time.
You and your board obviously are well aware of how to raise money during special events. It increased from 24,000 in 21 to 30 in 2022, and you're projecting in the future more than that next year. Are you having more social events, or what are you doing?
It's not so much more events as we're anticipating better attendance. We saw a drop-off during the COVID year, and we see that we should be coming back up from there. For example, the Flea Market Festival last year, year before, drew around 2,500 visitors. I think we actually had topped 4,200 in the years prior to COVID. So we're hoping, best guess, we're already moving back. So we think we'll see more participation, which is more fundraising.
I just want to also publicly thank you for your help to a historian here in Garden City, Brett Marshall, who's
Yeah.
writing a book about the history of our high school, and your assistance in that regard is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Lastly and finally, your request to us is $225,000. This is your opportunity to make a closing statement and tell us why we should fund it that way.
Well, I think that would go back somewhat to our mission statement. We are in the business of preserving the past. We are also in the business of preserving early day Finney County records. And I guess all I would say is we are safeguarding the heritage of Finney County, and we're doing everything we can to serve the people of Finney County, and in serving people who are from elsewhere, projecting a positive image of Finney County and bringing more people to the community, which is good for our economy as well.
Anything else, Commissioner? No, I would then entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we take this budget request under advisement.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to take the Finney County Historical Museum budget request under advisement. Is there any further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Steve, thanks to your board members.
Yes.
Next on our agenda is to hear from a budget request from Russell Child Development Center, commonly referred to in our community as RCDC, and Rebecca Clancy and Stephanie Willis. Good morning.
Share the space here.
Sounds wonderful. Each of
Yes.
you, welcome to the commission, and tell us about your presentation for supporting rcdc4kids.org.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I think you're all aware that RCDC has been serving Finney County since 1965. And so we have a long, rich history of providing services to families with young children. And it truly is our pleasure and our privilege to provide these services to children and families in your local community and the surrounding counties that we serve. Today, we're here to talk to you specifically about our early intervention program, which is the Part C service that is provided to children from birth to their 3rd birthday. And I have with me our director of that program, Stephanie Wills, and she's going to talk to you a little more about what that service delivery looks like and the team that we employ that provides those services in your community.
Thank you, Rebecca. Like Rebecca said, we are special education for children from birth to age 3, so we are a mandated service. We have a no waiting list, and all of our services are free to every child in our 13 communities. We have a lot of qualified staff that are under our early intervention program. We have speech language pathologists, we have occupational therapists, we have physical therapists, we have early childhood special education teachers, we have social workers, we have nurses, and we have paraprofessional bilingual staff that also helps with the translating with some of our families in our communities. Our goal with our families is to coach them and to help them provide information on development, to help their child meet their developmental milestones. So by the time they're of school age, they have closed that gap and are close to where their peers are at. So we're looking towards their future, definitely. We also help provide services with our families, finding doctor's appointments. We have a lot of families out here that go to Kansas City, Wichita, Denver for doctor's appointments for their children. So we do provide a service in helping those families get those appointments scheduled, helping them find the right specialist and doing that as well. Another program that we have here in Finney County, which is really special, is we have a newborn follow-up program with St. Catherine's. And one of our nurses has privileges at the NICU where she can help the families and the nurses with feeding or other services that they may need, or if they need to be shipped to Wesley or Colorado or Kansas City, and she lets them know we're available when they come back. So she's there to help with that as well. Another thing we're really excited about for the fall is we are partnering with the Garden City Community College Nursing Program to have their students follow us and shadow our providers to learn more about what options are available for nurses in our community and to learn more about development and also to learn how they can share that with other providers in the community as well. So we're really excited about that.
And did you have your packet?
Oh, I didn't ask that either.
First, if that got printed for you? I don't, because we have a copy if you didn't. You have it? Okay. Well, Stephanie will show you, if you want to look at page 2, there's a picture, gives you a nice visual of all the specialists that we employ that are serving Finney County. You can see their specialty there by their name. And the funding that we ask for goes to support the staff that are working directly in Finney County. We have a staff, when we're fully staffed, of 55, and 36 of our employees reside and pay taxes in Finney County. I don't know if you want to elaborate on any of that team?
Yeah, like I said, we have a large variety team because this is our area that covers most of our population and our children. Our team is really large, and we actually split the Finney County into West and East teams. So we have all of those providers that I listed above. We're also excited because our numbers did go up this last year. And so in Finney County, with our early intervention program, we did serve 293 children in the last year, which is really exciting. And we've really been working hard getting out into the community, to health departments, to schools. We've been going to back-to-school nights, preschool enrollment, kindergarten enrollment, to really get the word out about what we're doing in this community.
On page 4, we have outlined for you our preliminary budget estimations looking ahead to 2024. And at the top there, we show you if our early intervention Part C program is fully staffed, that you can see what that cost us in salaries and benefits when we are fully staffed, and what our operating costs are, and what that brings our total expenses to. We are able to file for Medicaid reimbursement, and we work very hard to complete that process. And we do receive categorical transportation reimbursement, much like the public school district does. So we're able to pull down those dollars as well. We've entered in our projection based on last year from our 13 counties that we request county meal dollars, what we might anticipate. And then the largest grant we have for this specific program is through KDHE. And we are excited because our numbers did go up. We're serving about 80 more children this past year. So KDHE has increased our grant by $67,000, which is helpful, but we still have that funding gap. KDHE knows in funding all of the early intervention programs across the state of Kansas, because this program is available in all 105 counties. They know that we are tasked to bridge that gap in funding, that it is not going to fully fund our program. So we work very hard at closing that gap. We think we excel at fundraising. You're probably familiar with our signature fundraising event, Fantasy Tree Festival. And we also have done very well over the years to continue to secure additional grants from other funding sources that help support our early intervention program. On page 5, you can see where our request is to you, and we show you historically since 2018 what we have requested for this particular program in all 13 counties we serve. And we like to be transparent so that all the counties can see that we do go forward to each county, each community, and we do appreciate the $112,500 that you awarded us last year. So thank you very much. Our request this year is the same request that we made last year, the $175,500. You can see that we have done some calculations by population. We are also aware of valuation in all the counties we serve, and that those don't always reflect the same. Some of our counties are hurting more with their valuations, and some of our smaller rural counties have lost in some population. But it is our best way, we feel, to try to be reflective of a sincere request by the numbers served. And we do count that, and you could see in our chart there that 50% of the young children we serve with this program are residing in Finney County. Page 6, we've just dropped an organizational chart in there for you. Many people are familiar with RCDC, but they're not as familiar with our full infrastructure and how many programs and services we actually have. So we have additional programs that we provide free of charge, again with no waiting list, and the other programs are all available in 19 counties. And none of them duplicate each other. They all have specific services, but they're also an opportunity and a venue for us to find children that might need our early intervention services and get them enrolled in that program with our Part C staff. On page 7, we've highlighted for you total number served in Finney County in 2022 with that pie chart there, and we list all those programs, showing you the number of children served by program, and then total number served. So in that chart, it shows we've served 1,030 children in 2022, and that's inclusive of all the programs. And then we were nearer to 4,000 total served in our 2022 year. Down below there, we highlight our commitment to Finney County and what we guarantee that we will do, that you can count on us to do. We are a strong collaborating partner with other nonprofits, and we also work closely with Western Kansas United Way and with Finney County and the Finney Foundation, and we really are appreciative of those additional funds that are available for us in this community. The very last page just gives you a little blurb of each of those programs and services and a snapshot view of the specifics of what are provided if you're interested in what some of those other programs look like. We would
Ready for
we would stand for questions.
Well, we'll go right to left. Commissioner Finney.
Really? You didn't give me time to think up my question?
This is a lot of information.
Yes,
This is one of the few presentations that include your audit report,
Right.
which for us is illuminating and helps us better understand where you're at and why the request remains.
yeah, it's good information. Thank you, ladies, for being here and presenting. I know that in the past, we haven't felt that we've been able to fund your full request, as you mentioned, the difference between your request and what we funded last year. Help me understand a little bit better how you make up that difference, because it appears that you're using your request as your projected budget information, but if we're not able to fund that, we feel that that's too much burden on our taxpayers to fund the whole thing. Is it through the fundraisers and so forth, or do you try to go out after additional grants, or how do you try to make up that difference?
It's a nice creative combination of all of that, of seeking additional grants and funding and fundraising, and then how much of a fundraiser might need to go towards a specific program. Another piece is the salaries that I list for Part C early intervention is when we're fully staffed. Right now, it has been very challenging to hire and retain 2 full-time physical therapists. So we're contracting with physical therapists. So technically, there might be open positions sitting there for a larger amount of that year, that fiscal year. And I need to include them in my budget, because if I can find them and recruit them, I'm going to hire them. But until I hire them, we just have that salary money sitting and waiting, hopefully watching, for that good hire. So it ebbs and flows a bit with that, and with other grants that come down the pike, other partnerships that come our way. It manages to fall into place. We do have reserves to where we could continue operating this particular program for up to 6 months, if there was a great disaster.
Which I believe reserves are prudent.
Mm-hmm.
No question about that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you, on the services you provide to the youth, do you, or is it consistently flat, or is it, or more youth coming to you for services in percentage to the population than in the past, or is it, are statistics about the same?
Well, I think, just the growth of the population in Finney County brings more young children. So then we're getting more because your population is growing. But I also think in regards to just our recruitment efforts and child find services that we put out, trying to seek and find the children that would qualify, we hustle really hard to do that and to be out in the community, to be approachable and find those children. We have a very active, engaged board of directors, And they are also out there and working in their communities as well. So it's kind of a combination of the population growing and the awareness of what we provide free of charge to families.
I think that's what I was getting at. You're exceeding the population growth because of your marketing programs or awareness. I guess that's what my question is.
Yeah, I'm very proud of our marketing efforts. We have some just stellar staff that support us behind the scenes in getting word out. And, you know, the staff is just very approachable in all their roles and are very prideful of working for RCDC and the work they do. So they talk in their communities about what they do and encourage people, you know, to refer their family and friends and neighbors for our services.
You offer several different programs. Does any particular program stand out as in more demand than the others?
Well, it's kind of like asking me if I have a favorite child.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a tough one because they all really stand out significantly in the service they provide and the difference they make. I think with this particular program, you are working with medically fragile children from birth to age 3. So you are meeting those parents when it is first identified what is the diagnosis or the challenges or the concerns. So it is a very important role our field staff play in those lives because they're meeting them where they are as they may be receiving news that is kind of hard to handle and process and navigate. So I think it's key that this program is one of our starting points for many of the families that come into contact with our organization.
I'm kind of giving you a public platform. You're on TV land, so you're giving you a chance to promote a little bit.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'm going to open with a comment or tell you about a day in my life that involved Russell Child Development. I made use of an invitation to come and spend a day with one of your workers, and I want to tell you about a place we went. We went to a mobile home park in the western part of the city where a mother was taking care of a 3-year-old child that was one of your, almost 3 years old, that was one of your, I'm going to say clients, that's the wrong term. Looking after. The story, then the husband came home from work at the beef plant. And so we had a chance to visit a little bit about their life. They were from Cook County, Illinois, Chicago. He lost his job. And so he had a friend or an acquaintance here at the beef plant at Holcomb and invited him to come and they accepted a job. And while they were here with that job, this 3-year-old was born, and a child with a lot of needs. And so Russell Child Development got involved. After a job opportunity opened back in Cook County, this young family moved back to Chicago. You know what? There was no Russell Child Development in Cook County, Illinois. And so they turned around and came back to Garden City for the sole reason they could get care for that 3-year-old. Now, one other thing that was interesting about that visit, while I was there at that mobile home, there was a knock at the door, and it's a USD 457 employee, because that child soon is going to be 3 years old, and I don't know how many people out in the listening audience know that there's an integration of these kids going from one program to the next and the cooperative work. And so that's my comment of the day. And I've probably used up all of my time, but it was enlightening.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jones, for sharing that, and I appreciate you sharing that narrative, and it is a true testimony to how valuable of an investment the services are, and we're investing in young children and in their families, and we are committed to helping be a part of their success story. So thank you, and thank you for going on that visit.
And you don't have all of the employees on your picture because 2 of them live right across the alley from me, the McNutts.
Well, I was going to give a shout out when you mentioned our audit because Deanna McNutt, we have a clean audit every year, and she is phenomenal. We are in good fiscal hands there. And her husband Shelby is like our right-hand man.
Shelby's not
Yes.
teaching school, he takes
He-
care of the,
He does. He helps maintain our grounds, and tell you, we're just very fortunate to have loyal staff that want to be a part of the work that we do, and we appreciate them.
that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I want you to know that I got appointed to the Compass Board. I guess I appointed myself. But Teresa Southern can rip off more acronyms for things, you know, and yesterday it was CBHCC, you know, which sounds like something you buy in Colorado. And- So tell me what Part 175C is and what it means.
Part 175C, the Part C services.
Yes.
Okay, so as Mr. Jones mentioned, in the school district, I'm going to go backwards to go forward. The special education services are called Part B, and that's where children receive individual education plans, IEPs. So we're the first stop if they qualify, and it's called Part C services, and that's a federal designation of this program services nationally. Okay, so every state has Part C, every county in Kansas has Part C. And what Stephanie's team write are individual family service plans, IFSP. We put the F in there for family because we are working with young children before they're old enough to go to school, so our partner is the family in helping support that child. So it's a legal document, the IFSP, and then if they qualify for Part B services, an IEP, then that's where Mr. Jones was a part of seeing that happen, where we meet with the local school district or local cooperative, and the teams come together to support that family and transition them from an IEP, IFSP, to an IEP.
You're glad you asked that question.
IEP is Individual Education Plan, and IFSP is Individual Family Service Program.
Yes, okay,
I make Miss Southern give me a checklist
uh-huh.
for a board meeting so that I can keep up.
That
to
is,
speed with-
that is a fair request.
I just wanted you to also know, I'll take a little bit of extra time, that you guys sold tax credits a couple of years ago. And I was privileged enough to buy one, and my reward was to be audited by the state of Kansas. So the listening audience out there ought to know that we ought to be promoting tax credits to our charities and our community service organizations, and our reward should not be an audit. Now, that having been said, you increased services to Finney County kids approximately 50% from 21 to 22, correct?
If I look at that chart,
I looked at it correctly.
yeah.
It was 50% growth.
Or that's
that's
50% of our kids that we provide
13
services
counties.
to are here in Finney County.
Yeah.
What was the number then in 21?
21, we had,
We were-
on our chart, it shows that we had 512 children in our
Total,
services.
total in this program.
Yes, 512 in
And-
this program, and then we increased our total to 580 this year.
Well,
22.
my question is that with that kind of growth, it appears to me that on the 112,000 and you divide it by the 293, we're somewhere around $300 a child for our part. And it's quite an investment, and at the same time, it's wonderful that we have the services available, and folks from the west side of Garden City who moved back to Garden City because we provide and care for everyone, not just those who are normal. Don't you guys provide also speech linguistic services?
That's a part of the early intervention, so, you know, it's the opportunity to have a speech language pathologist come to your child's home. in your natural environment, a physical therapist come to your child's home, an occupational therapist. So, you know, that approximate $300 per child, you're paying salaries of individuals that have those high-level specific degrees were required to employ at that level. That's one of the state's requirements. So we can't hire a PT tech. I don't know if that's the proper name, but, you know, we can't hire a para or a tech to deliver those services. It has to be someone that holds that master license. And PTs now have to earn their doctorate. So it's added another level of education to that particular position.
Well, we applaud all of your efforts. I might suggest that Western Kansas Community Foundation might be another source of revenue for the good charitable work that you do. If you haven't ever had a child with a speech issue, Russell Child is the place to go. And we thank you very much for your work. And you should just know that there's a lot of fans in the room, not here just today, but in the collective room of the world watching this. And I'll give a shout out to an old employee, and certain persons have touched your life many times, but if I don't get adequate funding for Russell Child Development Center from the rest of my commissioners, Ann Banning's gonna tell me about it at church.
Well, I will send Ann a thank you note.
Any other questions from the commission? Hearing none, then we'll give you a short time to have a summary as to why we should increase our funding.
Me too? You
Sure,
too?
go ahead.
Okay, all right. Well, like I said, we are a respected, relied upon organization that has been active in your community since 1965. You can count on us. You can trust us. We are good stewards of funding. We are transparent with our funding and our efforts and our work. We meet our grant requirements, and for this particular program, every dollar you give matches to the face of a child. It is not just to pay a bill, it is matching to a face of a child that is going to grow up. And our hope is to be successful and engaged in your community and start school ready to learn, and have parents that have been brought along and are their child's best advocate and are working and contributing in your community.
Thank you very much. The commission will now make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we take a Russell Child budget request under advisement.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to take our CDC's 2024 budget request under advisement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Good job.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you
our
very much.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Ladies.
Commissioner Jones, one more.
Yeah, we can go one more.
All right, next up on the agenda is the Finney County Library and Pam Tuller. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners and your presentation this year for outside agency funding request. Welcome. Make sure you please announce yourself to the world.
World, okay. I'm Pam Tuller, I'm the director at the Finney County Public Library. I have with me today our program director, Callie Villanueva, and two of our board members. I think we're, you know, within ratio of what Steve was able to bring, so. I have Paula Kimbrell and Marcia Wright with me today.
Morning and welcome, board members and further staff. Appreciate you being here. You have the floor.
Thank you. So Finney County Public Library's mission is to engage our community, to inspire lifelong learning, provide universal access, broad range of information, ideas, and entertainment. With that being said, we do all of these things in the most fun way we can. We look at statistics in a fun way. We look at programming in a fun way. We add quality to our community's individual lives through the materials, the programs, the education, and the entertainment that we are able to provide. You have a packet of this form. There are 4 of them. In 2019, we had 460 checkouts. That included some digital as well as physical materials in our building. In 2020, that went down to 58,000, so almost half. Through our efforts in outreach and partnerships and just being available to our community, in 2022, we were able to get back up to 97,521 checkouts. Again, this is materials printed and in-house as well as digital. Through COVID, we did see a huge growth in digital checkouts. We went from 12,000 to over 36,000 from 2019 to 2022. Some of the different items that we provide include books, of course, of all genres for all ages. That includes fiction, nonfiction, mystery, large print, Western, mangas, comic books. We also provide things. We have a library of things that we are able to check out. You can check out board games. You can take those home, play them with your family, and bring them back. We have hotspots where anyone who does not have access to internet or is going somewhere without access to internet can check out this little black box for 2 weeks and have access when needed. We've seen a wonderful response to this. Those are always checked out, and there's usually a waiting list as well. We check out cake pans, which isn't something that you would think, let's go to the library and get a cake pan. However, we have 257 cake pans that you can come choose from to make a cake, make a Jell-O mold, anything you're looking for. We have playaways and audiobooks. We have movies and video games. We continue to add things that provide quality to our entire community. We are adding our large games. We have chess and checkers, and the pieces are like this big. So we are adding those to our catalog where groups can check those out and have those activities for their events. Families will even have the opportunity to check those out once they are in the catalog for family reunions or any different kinds of parties. Some of the big events that we held in 2022, are our Halloween extravaganza. We had 1,400 people come through our door that day with a partnership with Kansas Children's Service League. We had our summer reading kickoff with 546 people that were able to go to Parrot Cove thanks to a generous donation. Our summer reading finale saw over 907 people. That's how many people ate at our hamburger feed. There were more people than that. We just couldn't count them. Our board game launch for international board games saw 207 people. Our after-school programs, we reach out to over 350 students every month. Our partnership with USD 457 has created 21 literacy kits for preschoolers. Those were checked out 74 times in 3 months. Our summer reading last year had 972 people sign up. The partnerships that we're working through and with this year are Genesis. They come in and do a navigating your needs, so they can provide some of the services that we cannot. They can help fill out an application. They can help look for specific services that put the library at a liability. 457 and the Kansas Health Foundation We have been a part of the Communities Supporting Early Literacy grant that is actually coming to an end. The money is coming to an end. The processes are staying in place, which we're excited to do. Garden City Rec, Buckman's BCO Behaviors, Finney County Historical Society, the Finney Foundation are just a few of the partnerships that we have created and are working on right now. Our outreach, which I believe is a big part of how we got back to our numbers. Most libraries in the country are not seeing such a quick comeback in their circulation numbers. We try to be at any and every event to let our community know that we're here, we're still here, and we're here for them. We work really hard to increase our collection of world languages, especially as the world languages increase in Garden City. Any questions today?
Thank you for your presentation. Commissioners, questions for left or right?
May I elaborate just a little bit? I've had the pleasure of serving on that library board off and on, mostly on, for about the last 14 years or so, excluding one year. Pam has a lot more that they offer that she didn't have an opportunity to cover, but one thing I'd like for you to tell the commissioners about is if they would go to Patrick Dugan's, they can get a cup of coffee and a service from the library.
They can. It's actually not at Patrick Dugan's anymore. It's at Central Cup. We're trying to move it around. We have 2 short story dispensers. So you can walk up to this nice little orange box, push a button, and get a 1 to 5 minute read. Just print it out right there in front of you. We have one at the library. We have one that is moving around the coffee shops right now. We had it at Flourish. We've had it at Patrick Dugan's. It's over at Central Cup. So if you get a chance to go in there, check it out because they're really kind of cool stories.
It's kind of a neat concept. The library, it continues to grow in services. And of course, we have a contract with LS&S for management. Actually, Pam is an employee of LS&S. There's one part of the library over there, though, that is not part of that contract, and that's Nature Explorer, the outdoor classroom. So they have to fund that some other way, and they do have a grant program or a grant that comes from Western Kansas Community Foundation a couple times a year that I think they send checks. And one of those is, the big one is designated for children, and that Nature Explorer is also dedicated to children, so that makes for a good match. So, and then I'm going to tell the story that I've told many times before, but at a Rotary meeting years ago, a Secretary of State by the name of Ron Thornburg was there, and he had the program. And he pulled out of his pocket a little thing that he called an e-reader. It said Kindle on it, but he said on this e-reader there are 5 books. And they can just put all kinds of material on these e-readers. And so some of these days, the public library will be no more because everybody will get things on e-readers or that technology. What I find interesting in my years of being around that library is that they're accepting COVID, their numbers coming through the door continue to grow. But a lot of those people are coming in to use computers now, use the e-reader in the library, if you will. So, and then she has some more services that I won't go into, but where you can call those up at home from your home computer and so on. But I'm proud of the library and the library board, and we need to be proud of one more thing, and that's the Friends of the Library, a group of volunteers. And at the airport, for example, they have a book dispensary. They take books out there for the traveler to pick up the book and take it with them.
Flyaway Library.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So anyway, good work.
Thank you.
I continue to forget, what is the mill levy?
One, not to exceed 1.9 mils is,
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fishney?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was one of the questions I was going to ask, just to refresh my memory. I knew there was a mill levy not to exceed. But the other question I had, or have, is with regard to the management company of LS&S, and I noticed that the fee goes up a little bit. Is there an escalation clause in the contract of X percentage?
2.5.
2.5? And then it seems like you had a renegotiation with them a year or so ago, or,
Yes, I believe Larry Jones was on our board when that renegotiation was
was
going
that
on.
every 5 years or every?
Yes,
Every 5
Yep.
years that you renegotiate the contract with
yes.
them. So the last part of that question is, that relationship is still going well, and you feel that that outside management service is worth the money?
I believe it is, yes. We have more support from more librarians. We have access to 80 different libraries across the country to be able to answer questions for us, or we're starting peer relationships with these other libraries. The services that we receive from them with this contract would take many, many more employees at the library to be able to cover HR, accounting, all of the different pieces that we don't necessarily have access to here.
Doing for you?
They're doing for us with this contract.
Well, that's fair, and I appreciate it, appreciate the services you provide.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, the devil's in the details, so please bear with me.
You're good.
As you know, these guys have done this a lot. This is my first March. In your financials, you show a 2023 year-to-date from Finney County of 607,000. Is that different because the previous year in 2022, the actual was 1,026,000? And
First half, maybe?
I think I can help, Beth.
would you please?
You get, it's quarterly checks from the county, is it not?
Yes.
Oh, she doesn't have all the
Oh.
quarters.
I don't have all of the money yet, so that is a year-to-date number.
Also, with regard to state funding, in 2021 and 2022, you showed 10,000 of state funding. Year-to-date, this year, 0. Is that because it just hasn't been received?
It has been received, but not before this was submitted. We received about $500 more than we did last year, so we're at about 10,700 now. Woohoo!
Yeah, they're swimming in money.
Yes.
2 billion precise. All right, very good. Thank you, Jenny. Then, you said you had other funding on line 2G of anywhere from 106 to 99,000. Is that the Western Kansas Community Foundation?
A good portion of it is, yes. Down below, it says other revenue explained. We do Better World books, so any of the books that we are getting rid of, we give to our friends, as well as process through this company that is able to sell them for us with very little staff time on our end. The Western Kansas Community Foundation Match Day, we participate in every year. We get summer reading donations, and then most of the rest of that is like Commissioner Jones was saying, is the Wampler Fund grant we receive every year.
Finally, on line 5F, in 2022, you have 72,800 and some change on expenses. Both prior years, 18 and 23, what was the $50,000 jump in expenses? 5F?
Our Nature Explorer Center needed a revamp last year, so we were able to add the gazebo and add different areas in the Nature Explorer Center that needed to be kind of redone. It'd been open for 10 years, and we needed to dig out all the mulch and put new mulch down and different drip line systems and sprinklers.
Okay, so that was mostly all capital improvements, correct?
Yes.
You have to put the doors and whatnot in them.
We did. We replaced the doors in the very front of the building. They were solid wood. You could not see through, and of course, you had to touch them. And with COVID, we did go ahead and get the sliding glass doors.
Unusual repairs or upgrades are not foreign to anybody who has to budget, including us, when we have the LEC looming. So, any other questions from the commission?
I have a question that's not budget related directly, but you recently had flooding problems again, did you not?
We did.
Can you enlighten us, what's going on with that building that leaks water?
Okay. So the downspouts in the building are inside the walls. There are cast iron pipes that go from the roof down to an outspout. And those cast iron pipes are almost 40 years old. Well, what does cast iron do? It rusts. So we are currently in the process of a leak happening. It just rained, so we probably have water. Now we have water in our little bucket. But that water went underneath the floor we were able to replace 2 years ago, and came up from under the floor. We did have to have about a quarter of the floor ripped out, and we are in the process of trying to get that fixed as soon as possible, because summer reading starts very, very soon, and that is the calendar I passed out to you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions from commission or comments, sir? Do you want to make an opportunity to make a closing remark as to your funding request of $1,056,000? Yes,
The library is an amazing place that is no longer just a quiet place to read. The library is a community center where people come to meet, people come to get help, people come to just physically be without having to pay anything. We look forward to many, many, many more years being able to provide these services and new services as our community grows.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
I'm ready to offer a motion if you're ready for it.
I am.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we take the library's budget request under advisement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to take the Finney County Library's annual funding request under advisement. Any further discussion?
I have one final question to Pam. When do you sleep? Because you're thinking of all these different things that do things. I don't think there's time to sleep.
She doesn't. Be honest.
I play with the goats instead of sleep.
Oh.
Well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate your time. Oh,
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, thank you very much.
thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, ma'am.
All right, we are going to take a break, and we will reconvene at 10:45. That's a short break, but that'll work fine for this morning. We'll see everybody back at 10:40 or 9:45. Thank you. And our next outside agency funding request for the 2024 budget is from the Finney County Committee on Aging, Inc. And let me look at my cheat sheet.
Patty?
Patty Tummel. Did I say that name correctly? Welcome. And if you would, when ready, begin your presentation in support of your funding request.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I brought with me Hillary Whitley. Whitley. I always get those switched. She is my assistant director, and then you've met Nathan. So I am here to tell you a little bit about our senior center and what we do for the community. Older adults who...
Pull that mic over and speak just a bit more.
Okay.
Yeah,
Dave won't admit it, but I can't hear.
Okay,
Soft-spoken and speak up.
You have one more of these.
I do.
Thank you, Patty.
Okay. So older adults who participate in senior center programs experience better psychological well-being across several measures compared to non-participants, including social and health benefits, lower levels of depression, supportive friendships, and lower stress levels. 75% of participants that visit their senior centers visit 1 to 3 times per week and spend an average of 3.5 hours per visit. Senior center services connect older adults to vital community services that can help them stay healthy and independent. More than 60% of senior centers are designated focal points for delivery of the Older Americans Act services, allowing older adults to access multiple services in one place. Senior centers work to partner with other community agencies, organizations, and businesses to provide access to an array of opportunities for older adults to stay safe, active, and healthy. Senior centers frequently serve as part of the emergency response. We are a tornado shelter. We are a warming and cooling building. So a lot of our seniors will come in just because they don't have air conditioning or very good heat in the wintertime. Senior centers have been a lifeline for older adults in their communities. Senior centers offered a wide variety of programs and services, including meals and nutrition sites, information and assistance, health, fitness, and wellness programs, transportation services, public benefits, counseling, employment assistance, volunteer and civics engagement opportunities, social and recreational activities, educational and art programs, and intergenerational programs. How are senior centers funded? To maintain operations, senior centers must leverage resources from a variety of sources. Primarily, funding sources are often local, municipal, or county government tax dollars. Other services include federal and state governments, funding raises, raising events, public and private grants, business, bequest, participant contributions, in-kind donations, and volunteer hours. Most centers rely on 3 to 8 different funding sources. The benefits and impacts of senior centers: research shows older adults who participate in senior center programs can learn to manage and delay the onset of chronic illnesses and experience measurable improvement in their physical, social, spiritual, emotional, mental, and economic well-being. Today's senior centers are reinventing themselves to meet the needs and desires of 3 generations of baby boomers. The baby boomers now constitute more than 2/3 of the 50-plus population. Senior centers are developing new programs and opportunities for the dynamic generation of older adults and having an eye towards the future with the leading age of Generation X turning 60 in 2025. So who are the people that comes to our senior center here in Finney County? We took a poll one day at our different lunchtime and activities. We have 7 that was served in the armed forces. We had 31 housewives and mothers. We had 4 working in childcare. We had 12 retired teachers, paras, 1 principal, 7 employees of the school system, and 2 professors from the Garden City Community College. All of these people have retired. We have 1 retired doctor, 16 nurses, CNAs, med aides, home health aides. We have 12 retired or practicing ministers, wives of ministers, teachers of religious education classes. We had 4 that worked in home caregiving. We have 2 that worked and one of them is still working at the funeral home. We have 4 interpreters, which one of them is still working in your court systems. We have 8 retired business owners, retired bookkeepers. We have 6. We have 4 that worked their life in banking. We have 9 who was builders, contractors, plumbing, and electricians in this area. We had 4 that worked in sales. We had 3 truckers, 4 retired from the gas and oil industry. We have 8 that was in farming, 5 that worked in our meat industry. We had 2 that are cowboys at feedlots. We have 4 retired realtors, 1 retired travel agent, 1 retired airport employee. We have 2 county employees retired, 1 retired city employee. We have 6 that were directors of not-for-profit organizations. We have 1 retired county commissioner, which I will say comes in every day at 11:30 and doesn't go home until almost 5. And we have 11 that has served or is serving on board of directors. These seniors taught and nurtured us and our children. They kept our families healthy. They fed our spiritual needs. They kept us safe and grew our communities in Finney County to what it is today. They deserve our utmost respect and care. Our senior center is a safe, caring place for them to come as often and to stay as long as they want. It's a place for them to learn and try new things, to get help with their questions pertaining to Medicare, taxes, medical concerns, mail they're not sure of, and to build solid friendships. We have great meals, a chance to express themselves, and go on outings and to volunteer. We are a place for them to exercise, attend classes, paint, learn a new craft, dance, party, play games, teach, and support each other. If a senior no longer drives, they know Finney County Senior or the transit will take them to wherever they need to go. These seniors who have worked so hard all their lives deserve a clean, safe senior center that they can enjoy and be proud of. We want this to be a place where they invite their family and friends to experience the fun and fellowship. Staff wants to be able to offer a pleasant experience to our seniors that walk through our doors. We want to be able to sit and talk with them, teach a class, play a game, or just sit around and help them with their needs. The staff doesn't need to worry about the roof. The flat roof that has been a huge concern over the many years that I've been there. Throughout the years, we have wet falling tiles, mold worries, wet floors, and carpet also ruined computers and files. Our plumbing is very, very old, so we are having to mop water from overflowing toilets often, plus the added cost of plumbers. The electrical, when we have special evening dinners, we have to plug the roasters all around the building because we have so many outlets that no longer work or they kick the breakers. Our furnace and air conditioners, we are limping them along. Our walls are covered in flammable materials that has been grandfathered in over the years. So if there really was a fire, could we get all of our staff, or could our staff get all our beloved seniors out of the building? Our security, we need updated cameras per the city police request. We have a lot goes on in our parking lots after hours that they've come to review what we have, and it's just not sufficient. Building stability. There are sidewalks that have settled. They are creating trip hazards and a wooden ramp for wheelchairs and walkers that become very slick when it's wet or snows. Rocks are pulling away from the outside walls and windows and doors that leak when it rains. We have limited space for exercise and storage that causes trip hazards. We are worried for the future of our senior center building, as Lana and I stated in the senior center facility need memo that we sent out in March. We appreciate everything that you do for Finney County Senior Center and Transit. So I also have pictures, and I'll explain some of them to you. The first page is a parking lot south side. It's the gutter rain spout that runs underneath the sidewalk. It is covered with a piece of metal, and that has popped up. It also has cracked. If you step on the end of it, it flips up. So we have had, due to that, we've had one broken hip a couple of years ago. On the south side, people have fallen over that our poles are been hit by cars and they're leaning. We actually had one of the architects fall over it, and we had a cameraman from KSN fall over it, and then we've had one of our clients fall over that. So we just have lots of issues right in that parking area with crumbling pylons and things like that. The second page, that is the rocks that are starting to pull away from the building that is decorative in the front part of our senior center. These are things that last year I brought in some pictures of things that was happening at the senior center. These are through the eyes of the architecture, Bruce Glass, and I never realized a lot of this or noticed it. The bottom there is cracks in our janitor's closet walls. The next page is also our janitor's closet. That is our plumbing and how old and rusty it is. Actually, we have a leaky faucet. We had the county guys come up to see if they could get it to fix, and they didn't want to work on it because they were afraid once they started on it, it was going to go all the way down into the floor because the pipes are so old. There's mold on the one corner wall, and then that's our menagerie of electrical boxes. The back northwest hallway leaks. It has leaked so bad up into that light that it doesn't work any longer. That door, that is the inside looking at the door, it leaks water and dirt and snow when it's in the winter. The picture next to it, that is the outside of that door where the sidewalk has settled. So it has a lip about a gap about that far. So we don't even let our seniors use that doorway anymore because we're afraid they're going to hook a toe or something and fall on their face. The bottom pictures are where the foundation has crumbled and settled. You can see that that's that door right there on that bottom left side and how far it has come down the sidewalk. The next page is a wooden ramp that gets so slick when it's wet. It's just not a good thing to have for seniors. The two pictures is the crowding during our exercise programs. You can see the exercise equipment in the back. That day we had people sitting in the back of other people trying to see what was going on, and exercise is one of the most popular thing right now at the senior center. So you can kind of see how we are kind of overcrowded. We really don't have a place for the exercise. And then yesterday, I went up into the attic for the first time in many, many years. And this is the roof in the attic from where the roof has leaked over the years. It has rotted out into a hole there. Somebody over the years has tacked up a sheet of plastic to catch the wood and stuff that is falling. And in that one picture, the second line of pictures, you can see where the water has set in that plastic. When I went up there, it was a very foul odor up there. It was very damp up there. So all these pictures here and a couple on the last page is of the attic. And so with that rotted wood, we know that there's gotta be some mold. And those ceilings are right up above all of our offices. The bottom carpet, or the middle picture is our carpet, our one window leaks, so it has ruined our carpet in that area. And then the other pictures are just pictures of some of our offices that have the water damage from the leaky roof. So we take pride in being very frugal with the money that we get from the county. We're going to ask for the same as what we asked for last year. If I get to that page, which is the $384,314. And like I said, it is the same as last year. And we're also asking maybe for some guidance for our future of our building. Is there any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. We're going to start with Commissioner Dries to my left.
I guess obviously we need to visit about the building a little bit, so I'm probably gonna try to put Jenny on the spot. Is this building part of our building capital program, or?
We do not own this building.
We do not own the building. And so I see in our budget, there's been no capital improvement budget for this building as part of your budget.
No, we did have, county would come in, the guys would help replace things or upkeep and things, but in the past couple of years, it's just a little less than what they used to. I've been working with Lana just to see what she could think of, different areas. She's been working with Bruce Glass as the architecture. Like I said, we were just needing some guidance on the future of our building.
That building was a grocery store built, I don't know what year, but it's a long time before I came here.
It was in the 70s. Yes, it was. No, it was in the 60s. We took it over in the 70s, and then we built on to that back part in the 80s. And that's all that's been done to that
Added
building.
on, and the roof repairs have been an issue from the get-go. That building, probably the best that we could do is rent a bulldozer for an afternoon. But the dilemma is, it's right next door to the transit center and where everything comes.
Right, and we would not like to separate from the transit. We work hand in hand. Hillary runs back and forth a lot, being she's our numbers person, and that running back and forth to, get receipts and different payroll, the salary sheets, things like that. So we wouldn't want to be anywhere else but right with transit, because we are sister businesses and we support each other. And
The actual ownership of the building is the Committee on Aging, is it not? On the title, on the deed, who have a building and no taxing authority to rebuild it. So I don't know how, Dwayne brings up a good point. Some way that needs to be addressed, and I don't know whether we fit into the equation or not, but I suspect we probably do in some manner to kind of, something needs to be done. That old building's in bad shape. So, anyway.
Anything else, sir? Commissioner Pishney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Patty, for making your presentation. I didn't bring it with me today, but it's on my desk back in the office, the report that you provided us a month ago or so, or whenever that was, with regard to the state of the building. The thought that I've been rolling around in my mind with regard to your building question, and Jenny and Robert and others might have to help us with some guidance. But we have used ARPA funds, and we have a few dollars left in that account to help our youth, to help workforce, to work with our sewer systems in the county, to I don't remember, a couple of other things that we've addressed with ARPA, because we understand that other than some monies we earmarked to help us enhance salaries, really should only be used for one-time expenditures. And I'm wondering, just throwing this out for thought, not any discussion or decisions today, obviously, but I'm wondering, even though the county doesn't own that building, what our responsibility is to the seniors in our community. We heard about our 0 to 3-year-olds and the responsibility that we have to them. I'm wondering whether there's a possibility of some funding, it wouldn't be the whole funding, from the ARPA funds that we might have remaining. So I just throw that out for thought today, and I fully understand that the deed is titled in another name other than Finney County, but maybe that's a potential consideration.
May I just want to remind you all that this building was part of the Hunden strategic plan,
Right.
so it may be wrapped up in that report that they put out in the next 6 or 7 weeks, whenever that's supposed to come out.
Thank you for reminding me, because yes, we were over there with the Hunden folks, looking over that facility as far as venues and so forth in the community. So, good point, very good point, Jenny. Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Commissioner Pishner, when do we expect that Hunden report, which includes a review of the senior center?
Well, we were told it was going to be in June, but I got a calendar invite or something the other day that shows that our review of that report would be early July. So sometime this summer, but I'm not exactly sure of the time frame, and I haven't had a chance to confirm whether or not I saw the right invite or not.
One of the fascinating things of getting to watch all the agencies present their outside agency budget requests is this commission's history of taking care of children and seniors. And I think you should know that if I was a betting man, I'd bet on your application request. It seems to me this commission has been very attentive to your requests and met those on an annual basis, more so than any other outside agency. And part of that goes this way. For all the things that you do at the senior center, cards, exercise, entertainment, shows, crafts, even senior dances, all the other activities that you do. The single thing that strikes me is that you feed people.
We do. We have,
Added up the number of meals served divided by last year's request and this year's request, which is static. It's $10.32 a piece. It'd be a privilege of this commission to continue to feed our seniors and others who are in need. And as I recall, and please tell the public, have you ever denied anybody a meal at the senior center?
no. We do, now this is through elder care, our meals that are served at the senior center. It is for 60 and over. If you're under 60, you can still eat, but there is a little bit more of a charge for those meals. But if anybody is hungry, we've had some homeless people that have come in that we let them sit down. If we have food left over, we send them on, give them a meal and send them some food to go with them. Our Meals on Wheels, now that is, we do charge $4.50 for those meals. Right now, that's what we're getting charged from the hospital for those meals. That is not including, staff salaries, wear and tear on the car, gas, anything like that. It's just for that food is what they get, that are charged. Now, we do get grants that we have that covers the cost of meals that are free for those who can't afford them. So very, very seldom have we ever turned anybody down unless it is in a case where our volunteers or a staff member is in, it's a a situation we don't want to put them in. We've had a couple of those times, and they have been told that they're more than welcome to come to the senior center and pick up their meal. It's just we weren't going to send a volunteer in that area or a staff member.
Well, I was suggesting limited to seniors. Have you ever turned anybody down? And I think the answer is no. $10.32 a meal is quite a bang for the buck when it compares to all the other things that you do. My last attentive remark is to your packet information where Commissioner Larry Jones has been on your board and assigned to you, and you give him a big thank you for his superb guidance. And I appreciate you recognizing the commissioner's dedication and time to the outside agencies for which each of us are assigned.
We appreciate it. And Dave was on it for years, and we appreciated all he done for us, too.
They have probably the most dedicated staff of any organization that I'm acquainted with. I happened to be on the board when COVID hit. And so instantly things got shut down the center, shut down the transportation. And I watched those folks on staff over there worry about, and they can name the names, somebody that had to have public transportation to get to dialysis. And so they were arranging to volunteer their own vehicle and time to go get those people. Same thing with the meals. There are certain people that Patty's folks are convinced that's the only meal they get is that one at noon, the friendship meals. And so the staff are trying to figure out how do we get food, Meals on Wheels type food delivery, whatever, to take care of those folks that are hurting. So it's remarkable. It's too bad the community can't see that board and the staff work together over there.
Thank you. This is your opportunity to summarize why we should continue our funding at $384,000.
Okay. Well, as I said in my presentation, of all the seniors that come to our senior center that have given to our community, so this is a time we can give back to them. We have everybody from age 50 on up to 100.5 years old. She's going to be 101 in June. So we have all sorts of people. We give these people in our community a reason to get up in the morning. This 100.5-year-old woman comes in every morning to clean our tables. She wipes them off. That is her job. That is her reason to get up in the morning. And we have several people that answer our phone and help in the kitchen and whatever they can do to help, pull weeds or whatever. That is their reason to get up in the morning. And I want to continue that from now on.
Very good. Thank you for the presentation. Hold on. Motion, sir?
I would be honored to offer a motion to take the Finney County Committee on Aging's budget request under advisement.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to take the Finney County Committee on Aging's budget request for 2024 under advisement. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
One comment. Put me on the clock, Dwayne. No, first of all, my wife and I have been invited to come to the senior dances on Wednesdays, and we decided we're not old enough yet. But we've been told otherwise, I guess. But I did have someone who is a regular attender of those senior dances, of those dances at the senior center, suggest to me in a serious vein that we needed to rename our building so that people wouldn't feel that they have to be a senior to come to the
Right,
dance.
and we have
I just thought I'd throw that out there too.
We have talked about that, and so we're kind of wondering, waiting until see our future of our building and what happens, and then we will
Yeah,
tackle
maybe
that.
That was thrown out to me, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other further comments on the pending motion? And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Moving from our youth to our seniors, to those who may be disabled We'll hear next for the 2024 budget request from Southwest Developmental Services, Mark Hine. And please introduce the gentleman with you, sir.
Good morning, I'm Mark Hine, the President and CEO of Southwest Developmental Services Incorporated. And with me, I have to my left here, Steve Sandoval, our Chief Program Officer with SDSI.
Proceed.
Okay, well, good morning, gentlemen. I'll start out on page 1. This is just a little bit of a summary of who we are. We were a corporation formed, not-for-profit in 1974, who we serve. When we put this packet together, we had 1,069 individuals in our system, the 18 counties that we serve. We, a little bit of information there about our local finance plan. In 2022, we received $510,385 from the counties, and then we received in state aid from the state of Kansas, which is discretionary money. The entire amount we receive is $327,062. I'll talk a little bit more about that local finance plan a little bit later in the presentation here. In 2023, July 1st of 2022, state fiscal year, we did receive, the CDDOs in the state of Kansas received an increase in funding. So we received from them that $917,000. Along with that, we've used, this year we have budgeted $144,000 of that money from the counties to supplement our budget. Several years ago, Finney County on page 2 there asked if there was any statute that pertained to the relationship between the organization, outside agency, and the county. So we have provided this, and we have kept this in here. As this says that county can contract with a nonprofit corporation, which you have chosen to do for a number of years, or you can do this yourself. And we've just left this in there for counties to see. The budget request is on page 3. You see the 18 counties that we serve, Finney County there. We utilize two different numbers, as I guess I should say, in our requests from the different counties. For the CDDO admin, I'll draw your attention to that column. That is about half of what it was last year, because we did receive an increase from the state of Kansas in CDDO administration dollars. So that $144,834 for the total, which is $8,046 per county, we ask from each of the counties. And then the request per population, that $718,500 total, is a number that we've used for a number of years. We've not increased nor have we decreased that. And then we use that, prorate that out on the population that that county has. So you can see Finney County, 188,679. The total request for this year for 24 is 196,731. On the far right-hand side, you can see the 2023 requests, and you can see it did go down about $8,000. And then what we have in contract with each of the 18 counties. The county population, the folks that we serve, as I said, there's 1,069 individuals when we put this packet together. These are the counties in which they're living. The county of their origin, so you can see in Finney County, 372 individuals reside here. Page 5, as I talked a little bit earlier about that local finance plan, you can see in 2022 how we spent that money. And again, this money is the county mill plus the state aid we received from the state of Kansas. With that increase we received in CDO administration, you can see that for 2023 we have budgeted $616,000, almost $617,000 to be paid out for transportation to our providers. Now, Jerry referred to earlier the acronyms, and I'll try not to use a bunch of them, but the IDD HCBS waiver, which is Intellectual Developmental Disabilities Home and Community-Based Service Waiver, does not pay our providers for transportation. So we have used this local finance plan for a number of years, and we use that to pay out to our providers. What we do in that local finance plan is, if they're providing services, day or residential, to an individual, we have so much for day services we provide in that local finance plan for transportation, and so much for residential. And of course, if they're doing both, we combine that. So we will pay that out on a monthly basis. So if that individual decides that they want to receive services from a different provider, that money goes to the new provider to provide those transportation services. Page 6 has the direct care and or case management providers, community service providers that we have in our 18 counties, the city in which the office is located, And as you can see, Garden City has quite a few. And of course, with our 18 counties, we have Garden City, Liberal, and Great Bend that receive, those are our three main town cities, and those for the most part are where our providers are located. On page 7, there's some duties and responsibilities that we perform as a community developmental disability organization. This is a page I provided to you for a number of years. The only thing that really has changed on this page is the very top paragraph, and it's the numbers. Again, we have 1,000, when we put this together, we have 1,069 individuals. Just the other day, we provided some numbers to other CDOs as we're trying to put together numbers for the state. We have 1,071 today. And that can change any point in time just due to someone coming into services, someone leaving services, someone passing away, any number of reasons. I'll go down these bullet points on this page too. We perform quality assurance reviews, and those are on the service providers. We make sure that they are providing services that are in tune with the person-centered support plan, that if required, there may be a behavior support plan. There are rules and regulations the state of Kansas has in our contract. That's what we are supposed to do. We do that, and we take that very seriously. We have a random draw of the number of individuals we have within a quarter, and then we will go out. It's a little bit over 25% by the time we add some variables in there, because we want to make sure that we review every provider, no matter how large, no matter how small they are. So we do have a way that we do that. So we end up doing quality assurance reviews on somewhere in the 30 to 33% area for folks on a quarterly basis. We do it monthly, but we draw those names quarterly. We perform all the required annual functional assessments on eligible individuals 5 years of age and older. That's required in the waiver that the state of Kansas has with Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS. We are the single point of entry. So if someone desires to find out if they think they're eligible for services, they come to us. We have a staff member here in the Garden City office. We have a staff member in the Great Bend office as well that perform that function. We're the gatekeeper for IDD services. If an individual here in any of our 18 counties, the provider or the targeted case manager feels that they need to go into an ICF or a state hospital, ICF, intermediate care facility. And Larned is one of those places, although Larned is mainly mental health. We have some folks that are dually diagnosed. They have the IDD diagnosis as well as a mental illness diagnosis. So sometimes we'll have folks going there. That comes through us and then to the state for the final approval. Same thing with Parsons State Hospital, or KNI, which is Kansas Neurological Institute in Topeka, Kansas. We advocate for funding. We advocate for system changes. We represent the CDDOs. We are not a provider. Of the 27 CDDOs, and there's a map here in this packet, there's 21, I believe, now that are still a provider. We feel that's a huge conflict of interest, but it's still allowed at this point in time. I think we're going to see an end to that at some point, but I'll probably retire before that happens, the way government works. Anyway, and we also, we're a property management organization too as well. We have 3 HUD properties. On page 8 in that packet, you'll see some information about those HUD projects. We have 3 corporations, separate corporations from SDSI. SDSI was the sponsoring organization for those HUD projects. Used to be 10. We were able to go from 10 to 1, and then the other 2 are still, they're a separate corporation. They're a separate entity. They're a separate, I don't remember what the numbers are. HUD has an 8, 11. They have a, whatever it is. It's a different one. So anyway, you can see in Garden City, we do have 7 group homes. We do have 7 apartment buildings here that house a number of individuals. So we want to make sure you see this information, because we do contract locally with contractors to do this. We buy material locally. We buy appliances locally, and believe you me, they go through the appliances a lot quicker than you and I do. It's the way it is. On page 9, there's an organizational chart, the board of directors, and each one of our counties has the ability to have a representative on our board. Zach Schultz is the Finney County rep. Myself included, there's 9 full-time staff. We did add, at the very bottom there, you can see we added a part-time and she works 4 hours a week. And we've used her in the past just on a contractual basis to do interpretation for us. We have found it very useful now. We brought her in, and we may expand her time if she's willing and if we see the need to do it. But we have her set up for voicemail, Spanish speaking. We have her set up for email, Spanish speaking. And again, she will help us, and it's been a huge help for us this year to have her come in. We're using her those 4 hours, and sometimes it's more than that, because sometimes she'll go out with staff members when they go to a home that needs a translator. Excuse me. Page 10, at the very top of the page, you can just see the number of folks who have applied to be determined eligible, applied for services, the number that have applied, the number that have been determined eligible, ineligible, and so on. The bottom 2/3 of that page is the wait list. The 4,804 individuals, that comes from the state of Kansas. You'll see that on the next page. Of those 4,804, we have 329 in our 18 counties. And you can see by the year, from 2013 coming forward to 2023, the number of individuals that have, one, been determined eligible, two, have requested services to begin. They get put on a wait list. So that wait list, the oldest individual, the oldest time frame that we have is January 24th of 2013. So we're talking over 10 years. Page 11 is where those wait list numbers come from the state's website. This was as of March 14th. We had 9,043 individuals in services, and we inserted what it was last year on that page as well. At this point in time, or in February 22nd of 22, we actually had one more person that was receiving services across the state of Kansas. And then you can see the number of individuals on that wait list, 4,804, as I said earlier, as of February 14th. Almost an increase of 300 people, not quite. There's a map on page 12 of the state of Kansas, the 27 CDOs. You can see we have the 13 counties in the southwest corner with an office here in Garden City, and we have the 5 counties there in central Kansas with an office in Great Bend and 2 staff that staff that office. The very last page of the presentation there is our board members. Have 6 vacancies at this point in time, but as I've made my trip through my tour of the counties, there's 3 or 4 board members I've been contacted that I may be able to fill some of these positions, which I'm very hopeful that I can do that. And one thing I really want to mention that we've been doing this year, and it is in the request form that you all have. The KU Center on Developmental Disabilities received a grant, and that grant was for competitive integrated employment. They came here first to USD 457. Tracy Schellenberger is my board member from Scott County who also works in the special ed department here in USD 457. So her and Josh Guyman, who was the special ed director, he's moving up to another position. But anyway, they are working with KU Center for Developmental Disabilities. We are working in collaboration with them as well in seeing that we have a 10-year wait list. And kids getting out of high school, graduating right now, that might be eligible for our services, don't need to sit at home for 10 years. We have a lot of employers in Garden City, Kansas, and elsewhere in the 18 counties we serve that need somebody. So we work together with USD 457, the individuals from the KU Center on Developmental Disabilities. We had a reverse job fair, I don't know, what's it been, 6 weeks ago maybe? Okay, about a month ago. And we had a lunch for the employers, and I think there was like 16 employers showed up. And then in the other room at the Clarion there, the ballroom, they had the 2 combined there because we just took up one of it for lunch. There were 16 or 17 individuals. 3 or 4 were from our service providers. The rest were kids. I say kids, they're young adults. Graduating from high school, and they had their own table with a tripod-like thing set up that had pictures of them doing things they like. Some of them were yard work, mowing, edging, trimming. Some were working with animals, whatever it was. One was with restaurant, food service. So then these employers, after we ate lunch and we explained what was going on, as far as what their responsibility, and still, and we got done with that, they still weren't quite sure. But what they did then, they went over next door and they were able to go to each one of those young adults and talk to them about what they wanted to, they could, like I said, they could see pictures. They had information on their folders up there about when they would be available, what they like to do. They had pictures again, and anyway, we were very pleased. USD 457 was very pleased. The folks from the KU Center on Developmental Disabilities was very pleased. This is something Steve and I have talked about because the state of Kansas does not incentivize employment, competitive integrated employment. They pay for it, but they don't pay enough that anybody does it. So we've talked about how can we use some county money to do this, to help employers, to help people get employed locally. So we didn't want to invent the wheel on this thing. So thankfully this came along, and we're working with them to see what we can do as an organization, use some local money to help people become employed. They do much better when they're employed in competitive integrated employment versus, and there's some that may be not employable, but people do much better when they're out there amongst the population. They're working at Walmart, they're working at Home Depot, they're working, at the Quick Shop, they're working, we have an individual that works up at the Ice House. We have, folks that when they do much better, they're around, quote, unquote, normal people. And they make friends in the community and they do things in the community. It's much better than being secluded in a day service program where you're in a room doing value day activities, whatever that may be. So with that, I stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you. You get me first today. The chart on, if you would, turn back to page 12, please, of the services in the community and into the state. If I read the chart correctly, you have 5 counties in what I call central Kansas.
Yes.
Can you explain to me and to the public why we have a Southwest Kansas Developmental Services serving 5 counties in central Kansas?
Back in 2004, Barton County, this whole system is very interesting the way it evolved, but it used to be there were 32 licensed providers. When the DD Reform Act, Developmental Disabilities Reform Act, passed in 1995, it became open to a competitive environment, which it had not really been before. Last I knew, there were over 300 licensed providers. But anyway, Barton County had a CDDO, Community Developmental Disability Organization, such as us, that was also a provider. They had someone break off who used to work for them, a former employee, and started their own business. We didn't know about all the ins and outs of what was going on there until we actually went in there. But anyway, in 2004, Barton County decided they'd had enough of the bickering going back and forth between the two organizations. They wanted a CDDO that did not provide services. So there was no conflict of interest. We were one of 3 organizations that presented to them, and they chose us. So we ended up with those 5 counties and putting an office over there.
And forgive me if I missed it somewhere in your presentation. Did you have a breakdown of support by counties of the 23 counties, and I missed it?
Talking about numbers of people's.
No, the number of dollars from.
If you look on page 3, you will see the 18 counties, what we request, what we receive. We don't have it broke out per region, and we do call this Southwest and that our Central Kansas region. We don't have it broke out per region, but we do have there on page 3 the request and then what we have in contract, for instance, for this year with each of those 18 counties.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes.
The amount that you received last year from the county with the number of people living in our county at 372 amounts to about 262 each. I would suggest that that's a nominal contribution on our part to do our statutorily and constitutionally mandated requirement that the commission provide for the public welfare of its citizens. It's unique to Kansas law. The county is so charged. and your services to those who have disabilities helps us do our constitutional duty. With that, I'll ask Commissioner Finney for remarks or questions.
No, I would echo a piece of what you just said. It's an important service to a part of our community that needs that assistance, and I appreciate what you and the agency are doing, so no questions.
Mark, the sheet I have here with the budget, I don't know what page number it is, but where Finney County has been providing, yeah, that's not the one. What page number is this?
It's not a page number. It's our worksheet.
Yeah, it's the worksheet there.
It's right before their presentation.
There we go. Looking at that, Finney County is in the $97,000 area for the last 3 years. And you're asking for about 100% increase. And the other counties, they're also looking at, if they fund your request, at a substantial increase. What's changed here that you made it on the reduced budget and all of a sudden the budget requests are so high?
Well, the budget request is, in fact, it's less this year than what it was last year. But we whatever we get, and it is for all those counties, the 18 counties, because when you look at the request, if you look at page 3 of our packet, you can see the request versus what we have in contract. We requested a little bit over $1 million last year, $1,003,000 from all 18 counties. We received $528,000. So what we requested last year from Finney County was $204,528. We received $97,500. So we deal with what we get, of course, and
That's why I'm asking this question. I'm assuming your board then allocates those funds out to the requesting agencies, is that?
yes,
So
Yeah.
if your income's down 50%, the out goes down 50%.
yes, yeah,
Okay. We'll see where we go budget
yeah,
as we develop our budget.
yep,
That's a substantial increase request.
right. But again, it's less than what we requested last year, but last year we got about, the 97.5, and we get what we get, and that's what we deal with.
That's it.
Dave, a little bit of my history or memory is that we tend to give him about half of what he asked for over the years.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. I've always asked, I believe in the past, the waiting list, the people who desire your services, I think you've summarized that on page 8 of the handout you gave. Some of these folks who have, well, maybe on its page 10, you have 23 people listed from 2013. How do they, is that some outpatient? Surely they're getting some kind of help.
You know, they may be getting targeted case management, because targeted case management is not on the waiver. Targeted case management is actually a state planned. So they can come in, be determined eligible, request services. They're not going to get day residential or in-home supports, but they can get the targeted case management immediately.
They are getting help.
They can get that, yes.
Residential.
Now, that's not, by definition, targeted case management is not really a direct support role. I mean, they're not coming in doing fixing meals, budgeting, or that sort of stuff. They may be helping them with Steve, what do they help them with?
Community resources or Medicaid funding or Social Security support.
The point is, I guess, the need is always there.
Right, right.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Commissioner Finney? No. All right, Mark, in support of your request, some final remarks to us?
You know, as pointed out, you know, we will, as we always have, we will deal with what we get, and we'll make it work. The one thing I really want to point out that we feel very pleased this year that we're working with the KU Center for Developmental Disabilities, USD 457, and helping hopefully by the way, there were 5 individuals that were offered jobs at that job fair. So we're like, that is cool. That is really neat that they're not going to go at home and sit on a couch for 10 years or whatever. So that is something that we really feel good about, and we really want to be able to use local money to help people become employed, be a part of the community, because it is a home and community-based service waiver. That's what it's supposed to be.
Mark, I want to point out that at the last regular commission meeting, this commission, approved $50,000 of ARPA funds for workforce solutions here in southwest Kansas. I would encourage you to contact Bob Kreitzer to see when those job fairs are going to be and whether any of your people would fit into
Okay.
The opportunity to hear and be a part of those, what do they call them, job fairs or
Showcases.
showcases
Okay.
of what was available to make sure that we have the highest level of employment that we can for those who need a little assistance. So if you would make your final, I forgot to bring up workforce
Okay.
solutions. It's right here.
And by the way, we've had families that have been involved in this. We meet monthly for the most part. There's been a couple canceled through the last 12 months or so, but we meet monthly in the evening over at the Educational Support Center, and families and individuals have been involved in those meetings as well to help move this thing forward and hopefully get some folks employed. And the timing is perfect. I mean, everywhere you go, in all the 18 counties I go to, you drive up to the convenience store, they're hiring. You drive wherever you go, and the commissioners are talking about people, where can you find people to work? So anyway, I guess with that, I'll quit.
Thank you very much. And commissioners, do we have a motion on this agency request?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the budget, take the budget request under advisement for Southwest Development.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to take the outside agency funding request for SDSI under advisement. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
When I used to work on the farm, it was fun to get to the short rows because that meant that you were nearing completion of a process. And by no means least, but last on our list, is our Finney County Conservation District and Carmen Roads. And would you introduce the people that you have with you, please?
Yes, I have Abe Lawler, he's a current supervisor on our board. And then Casey Robinson, she's with Natural Resources Conservation Service. I do have a few pretty pictures to hand out, so.
Would you do so, and welcome?
Thank you for seeing us today. I always seem to bring more papers than I need.
Hold the microphone up and speak into it there.
Speak into it? All right. What I'm handing out is actually a program and pictures from our Ark River Water Festival that was held on May 1st. So that was not included in our packet. 711 fifth and sixth grade students got to hear about the many different aspects of water and why it's important. It's one of our bigger educational opportunities that we provide.
Wouldn't it be nice to have water in our river?
Yeah,
Ark River right here.
yeah. I get that question all the time.
I'm sorry for interrupting your presentation.
No, you're fine, you're fine. And it's nice to see some moisture coming out of the sky. It's been a nice regular occurrence if we can just keep it going.
Please continue, and I'm
Okay.
sorry for the interruption.
You're fine. It's good when you guys understand how important the water situation is here. So to start, I'm Carmen Rhodes. I'm the district manager for the Finney County Conservation District. Our mission is to provide financial, technical, and educational opportunities to the residents of Finney County. And that can come about in a number of ways. One thing I want to start off by saying is, several of you have heard this before, we get matching funds from the state. We also get cost share funds from the state. So our matching funds are up to $25,000. We'll match whatever the county gives. So if the county doesn't provide any funding, we don't get any state matching funds. We've been blessed or lucky enough to receive more than $25,000 from you guys, so that gets us the max that the state will allocate. It all depends on what the state water plan looks like and what the funding looks like with that. On top of that, we get our cost share funding. We have 2 different cost share programs. I'm not going off of the form here, but our cost share programs work to improve our conservation practices. And we have a local work group where we determine what our conservation concerns are, what our needs are, and what we need to address. And then we go into our state program, and I don't want to say pick and choose because they're all there, but we rank higher those priorities that are of higher concern. So one of our bigger priorities here is water quantity and water quality. So how can we address those concerns? One of our new programs is, and it's been out there, it's just going to be a lot more predominant and available to producers, is our irrigation technology, where we can reduce the amount of irrigation required. We also help provide the technical assistance when planning or determining what those resource concerns are. Let me see where I'm at here with my list. So there are 105 counties, so there's 105 conservation districts. Each county has its own conservation district, and we found that that is very important, especially last year when I was trying to help out with Grant County. When you don't have that local office, you're losing that touch with the community. And those resource concerns vary from county to county. Even within a county, they vary. So area to area. You will see if we get back to our my write-up that I provide, the budget justification here. It'll be the last page, 2 pages of the packet. You will see where the $35,000 goes to. A lot of the projects that we do for education are done through sponsorship. We've got a great community that provides great support in teaching the future. Please forgive me, I don't have Andy here with me to kind of help guide me. We do have, you guys will see what our return, so for every dollar you invest in us, there's $118 in return. That's for 2022 numbers. I will tell you, we have, why I have Casey here with me and Abe is they can talk to some of the outside programs that we are a part of and what we plan to see coming in the next several years. Casey pulled up some numbers this morning, and if you look on that very last page, about halfway down, there was 3.4 million in CSP payments in Finney County alone. Currently, we are looking at 9.8 million contract dollars for this year. Am I correct? Yeah. We do expect an increase in funding to be coming through the federal programs. With that being said, the federal and the local work side by side. We work together. When we have that local work group meeting, we get to talk about what the federal programs are, what our local concerns are, and where is there a disconnect, or what's working. What can we address, or what ideas, what priorities do we need to bring to the federal's attention to address locally? Sometimes we see changes, sometimes we don't. But we need that voice. That sums up what I want to say.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Do you guys want to, if you want to say anything?
Welcome. Please state your name.
I'm Casey Robinson, and I'm the Supervisory District Conservationist for the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and I oversee Finney, Scott, and Kearney counties right now. But in Finney County, like Carmen said, with our conservation stewardship program, there are normally 5-year contracts, but like I said, there has been just shy of $10 billion coming back to the community of Finney County for our Finney County producers, which this touches just short of 150,000 cropland acres is what our government programs are touched on these contracts. Like Carmen said, they are the local voice for us, for the federal government, and work right beside us to implement these programs as well. We are very short-staffed, as like everybody says, and having the districts work alongside of us has been very, very important to implement these programs. And like Carmen said, in the next several years, we should be getting Inflation Reduction Act money, which is a substantial increase to what we've seen in our programs over the past couple years that we should be receiving. So it's going to be more important that we work together with these local entities to get this conservation on the ground and provide this government assistance to our local producers.
Is your agency a federal agency?
Yes, we're under USDA.
Your USDA?
Yes.
And you have any voice at all about the prairie chicken?
I'm be careful. No, we do. We do, and part of the implementation process is some of our programs do provide funding for conservation work for the prairie
I would
chicken.
ask you to be the voice of reason that last night's rain and the generous rains that we've received thus far will do more for the prairie chicken than any federal government mandate.
Agreed.
So be the voice of reason.
I definitely, very much so.
All right. Anything else from any other presenter?
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Abe Lawler. I'm the supervisor for the Conservation District. I'm actually also the treasurer, so just newly appointed, by the way. So I'm still kind of learning my duties there. But again, I want to thank you for listening to us today. As you all know, Finney County is a very, very large county, and we have been very conservation-minded in this county. But with our water resources, our soil resources, all the resources that we are using are becoming concerning, and active conservation is growing and growing. I think you can see in those numbers that Casey provided that a lot of our producers and our urban areas are becoming conservation minded and even more growing. And it'd be great to see our county commissioners provide that funding that Carmen requested, and potentially more in the future with this movement of conservation growing, not only here in Finney County, but in the whole state and the whole United States as well. So with that, that's about all I had to say. So thank you.
Anything else for presentation purposes?
No.
Are you ready for questions?
Give them to me, yes.
All right, Commissioner Pishney, Commissioner Drees, this is up your bailiwick. This is farm-oriented. Why don't you start?
Reference, I started my board career on the Conservation District some 40-some-odd years ago. My question is, I guess I'm going to pick on Casey. You said you do 3 counties. Is that a federal budget problem, or is it just simply not enough people to fill the positions that you are stuck with 3 counties?
What was it? About 6 years ago, we went to a management unit base, and actually, until the past 6 months, we split it up. I was covering 5 counties for a while, and that was due to a little lack of staffing too. But each are some management units. Most of them are 3 county based. Some, when you get northeast, are 2 county. It just, we have a supervisor that oversees those, and then hopefully a district conservationist in each of the other counties to kind of handle the workload. But I don't see us going back to having single
I
counties.
guess that just points out the more valuable the conservation districts are. Like you say, they're the local
They're the local voice, yes, very much.
voice, so that helps you dramatically.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Anything else? No. Mr. Jones?
Conservation has changed a little over my lifetime. When I grew up on a farm, we'd go to the conservation office to arrange to have a terrace built in a field, or to rent a grain drill so we could plant alfalfa. That's all changed. And you're mentioning the state match. I sat on this commission one year when we unfunded you, and the next meeting, we had a sizable audience of farmers saying, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that.
Right.
Reinstated, I think, 24,
Yeah.
whatever. So, my question is, as times have changed, and you're into not only the conservation of the land, but also wildlife and so on, are those programs still going pretty well, where you're putting out the feed trough and the watering and for the wildlife? You're still involved in that, are you not?
It can be a part of a plan, it just depends on what that resource concern is in that area. Most times, we do some cost share on like tanks and pipelines and wells, not so much. I think that's gonna be more of the federal.
I was gonna say a lot of that probably is coming under the Conservation Reserve Program is what your
The
CRP program on that, which they, like I said, they help us out tremendously administer those federal programs. Whether, seed orders, different things to get the CRP seeded, the Conservation District helps out with that.
My reason for stating all of this background is that as times have changed, we've also recognized we're running out of water.
Mhm.
And several entities, if you will, are working on the water issue, and including you folks.
Right.
So it's a cooperative effort, and our taxpayers need to recognize part of what you're doing. It's not a terrace, it's not a planting, not a grain drill. So
I appreciate hearing that, and it does take, we do work closely like with GMD, Kansas Water Office, Playa Lakes Joint Venture, the RAC committees, the regional advisory committees, all of those, we have to work.
you even have a program for some assistance, financial assistance on septic systems, do you not?
Yes, and I have tried to, talking about voice of reasoning, that is something that at the state level, they're trying to eventually weed away, but that is a high priority. We go through our funding for septic systems within the first month that we have it. But yeah,
Appreciate what you're doing.
thank you.
Anything else, sir? Commissioner Pishney?
Couple of things. With your last comment, you might visit with Jenny sometime, because we're working with our, we just decided yesterday, or instructed staff yesterday, to start revising our regulations within the county, and that would include septic systems and so forth. So you might just touch base and see if there's some way.
Right.
I appreciate the partnerships that you've mentioned with federal organizations, and I was gonna ask about groundwater management, but you just referenced that as well. The one disappointment I've had, and it's not been in Finney County, it was over in Gray County, is when they did the cost share on the CRP, I didn't see my reimbursement for my labor when I put in the bird water for my wife's land, so, no. Just fine with you, but, anyhow,
Right.
no, we've participated in those programs in another county, but appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The only thing that I want to point out from your presentation, and this is more for people, could you go to the last slide on this presentation, please? This is more for the people in the viewing audience than for any of us, but it's highlighted there, just above or in the red. For every dollar invested by the county, we have returned $118.10 of economic return to Finney County through the Conservation District program. That needs to be highlighted for everyone who may want to question as to why we support the Conservation District to the level that we do. Now's your opportunity to tell us why we need to continue and maintain the level of funding for 2024.
First, I want to say I'm glad I'm not in your guys' shoes. You guys have a difficult job. Here in a lot of the other presentations, there's a need for a lot out there. I think what we do gets lost, gets forgotten about. We go about our day-to-day lives, and maybe not you guys, but there's a lot of the public that forgets about where our food comes from, where our water comes from, and that it isn't always going to be flowing out of that tap. There's a saying I love to say, and that's not that we are preparing our land for the future, but we are borrowing it from the future. So we need to leave it better than we found it. So it's one of those forgotten agencies. I didn't know it existed until I got the job. I didn't know I had this desire to work on conservation till I got the job. And it's easily forgotten about, easily pushed aside. We don't ask for a whole lot. I'm not in this position to get rich. We will, more than likely, I've been holding off on hiring a second person. When I started on, there was 2 of us. We've been holding off on hiring a second person, but that was easy to do through COVID, very easy to do. But now that the meetings are starting back up, now that we are planning again, where they did a CREP tour yesterday to see what's going on out in the fields. That's a state program that goes through the conservation districts. Those kind of things are actually the boots on the ground and digging, and we've got to have the personnel, we've got to have the office to do so. So,
Thank you very much. Any other discussion from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we take the Conservation District budget request under advisement.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to take the Conservation District's 2024 budget request under advisement. Is there any further discussion?
Just a comment, I forgot to mention, one of the partnerships that I was really pleased to see is with the Extension District in this.
they are fabulous. We've got some great agents on board, and
We've lost one, but.
Right.
Lost Anthony, but we're hoping to find another one. I say, I'm the liaison to that board. So.
yeah.
Very good. Any other further discussion on the pending motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Very much for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Jenny, do we have anything else to manage in today's meeting? Anything from the commissioners? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Been moved to adjourn.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any further discussion or objections? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, commissioners.